The 78th NBA season. Let's talk about it from the Celtics perspective. Starting off with probably the biggest moment of the season. On June 22nd, Brad Stevens made the call to trade Mike Muscala, Danilo Gallinari and Marcus Smart for Porzingis, the greatest player drafted by the Knicks.
Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is Tingus Pingus?
This was a shocking move because Marcus Smart was supposed to be the Udonis Haslem of the Boston Celtics. A week later, Grant Williams and Blake Griffin became free agents in an off-season where a lot of key players left the team. That was the biggest hit to the team chemistry. But not re-signing Grant Williams was purely a financial decision, and Blake Griffin just wanted to take the year off. July rolled around and the Celtics front office made the best decision it has ever decision by signing Jaylen Brown to a supermax. There was a lot of talk during the end of last season about whether Jaylen Brown was really a superstar and where he would end up, but like the mastermind that Brad Stevens is, he ignored all the peasants talking like they were the general managers and gave JB the supermax without hesitation. Jaylen Brown then went on to have his best season yet by a great margin, overcoming the left-hand issues and being the most dominant player on the court on multiple nights. Then October rolls around and on the first day of the month, Brad Stevens shocks us again by trading another star. This time it's Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon who are traded for Jrue Holiday. That's right, for some reason the Bucks thought trading Jrue Holiday for Dame time would win them a championship. And so to recap the big off-season moves, Brad Stevens improved the center position by replacing Time Lord with Porzingis and improved the guard position by replacing Marcus Smart with Jrue Holiday, all in one off-season. 8 days into October, we signed Peyton Pritchard to a contract extension. Great deal, highly underrated player. Pritchard wanted a more significant role last trade deadline, but his patience paid off because Brad Stevens saw his potential and now Pritchard has a rotation spot on a contending team. Peyton Pritchard ended the season top 10 in the league in assists to turnover ratio, with major jumps in rebounding numbers and as the only Celtic to play every game. While we're on this topic, I just want to say how similar Crypto P and D White are in terms of their hustling. Despite their size, they have both made significant impact on defense, rebounding and the offensive glass. Impact that doesn't show up on box scores but wins games. Derek White even went on to finish the season with more blocks than Giannis. That same day, October the 8th, we also got the first look at Jrue and Porzingis playing in Celtics uniforms. Look at that. Beautiful. The highlight of the game was a Derek White alley-oop to Porzingis. The Celtics went on to finish their preseason games with a win over the Hornets and a 4-1 record. Our regular season started on October 25th with a season opener win against the Knicks. Porzingis, playing against his old team, set a record for the highest scoring Celtics debut with 30 points. Second game of the season, we got the chance to show Miami that we still own them, and the man who saved us in Game 6 led the win with 28 points. The highlight of the game was his Derek White block on Jimmy Butler in clutch time. What a great father-son moment. The Celtics faced the Wizards next and entered the second quarter with a 42-19 lead. You can take a guess at who won that game. As if the Wizards blowout wasn't enough domination, the Celtics returned home to dominate the Halliburton-less Pacers wire to wire. Even the bench warmers put up 46 points over the entire fourth quarter, getting us to 155 points and our first 50-plus point win. The Celtics were only 4 games into the season and already putting up Bill Russell era type numbers. The next game, in Brooklyn, Tatum became the youngest Celtic to reach 10,000 career points and earned the Player of the Week honor that week. He also became the youngest NBA player to score 1,000 career threes at the start of 2023. What a record-breaking year for Tatum, literally. First Western Conference opponent, first overtime, and the first loss of the season, all came in Minnesota. It was a winnable game, but Ant-Man hit 3 in overtime in the span of 1 minute, and then Jaden McDaniels hit the dagger with 16 seconds left. The Celtics faced their first back-to-back loss the very next game. This was the day I learned that Embiid and Maxey really are a force to be reckoned with, and my fear of facing the Sixers in the playoffs was born. Not the only birth though, because Derek White's second son was also born that week. Congrats D White. We faced the Nets in our first in-season tournament game. The tournament game revived the bench after disappointing performances in the 2 losses. We won the game. But more importantly, look at these pictures, because wow, the tournament court designs are nice. On the second day of our first back-to-back, we beat the Raptors. Joe Mazzulla called a successful challenge up 27 with 3:27 remaining, and the Raptors were upset at that for some reason. Like maybe don't give up a 27-point lead. just play better basketball. Y'all remember Tatum in Game 6 against the Sixers, where he missed all his 3-pointers in the first 3 quarters and then hit 4 in the 4th quarter? Well, he did it again by going 1 of 8 from behind the arc before hitting 4 straight and leading the Celtics to the win over the Knicks. That concluded the first 10 games of the season with an 8-2 record. On November 20th, the Celtics played their most exciting game of the first half of the season. The Hornets rallied back from an 18-point deficit. Jrue Holiday missed 2 free throws. LaMelo Ball hit the layup to tie. Hornets carried the momentum into overtime. Tatum missed a crucial free throw. Hornets stole the inbound pass and then won the game. Even though we lost, it was a fun game to watch because we weren't playing another contender where such a loss would have been frustrating. Unfortunately, Miles Bridges was the one who hit the game winner and then got the game-sealing steal. But at least no one on the Celtics is a domestic abuser. On November 28, the Celtics entered an in-season tournament game against the Bulls, needing to not only win but outscore the Bulls by 23 points in order to advance to the quarterfinals. And that's exactly what they did, a 27-point win. I was on board with this tournament idea from the start, and I liked the court designs, the uniforms, and the competition it brought. But this game made me love the tournament even more. There's something special about watching your team play their heart out in the 4th quarter, even after they've secured the win. Billy Donovan was upset at our hack-a-shack strategy on Drummond, but hey, I said it for the Raptors game and I'll say it again. Just play better basketball. The Celtics ended the month of November with a 14-4 record and with JT winning the Eastern Conference Player of the Month. The in-season tournament saga continued on December 4th when the Celtics lost to the Pacers in the quarterfinals, with Porzingis still sidelined with a calf injury. It would have been nice to win the tournament, but nothing other than banner 18 matters this season. The good news is the Pacers went on to eliminate the Bucks and the Lakers won the tournament, helping LeBron put another mile between him and MJ. 2 weeks later, after struggling against the Magic all of last season, the Celtics finally beat them twice in back-to-back matchups.
He be turning me up, oh, bro, with a gingerbread man.
Not only that, but they did it during Orlando's first 45-plus win season since 2011. This team is truly special. After protecting their home court, they headed out on a West Coast All-California road trip, with their first stop in Golden State. The Warriors made a comeback from down 17 to win in overtime, but we don't need to talk about that. After the rough start, it was all uphill from there, starting with a blowout 144-119 win over the Kings, with 5 players scoring 20-plus points. This game was a game of 3-point shots, which were falling for both teams in the first quarter, but not so much after that for the Kings. What's better than a 144-119 win over the Kings? A 145-108 win over the Clippers. Of course, we shot the 3-ball well in that game as well. The road trip led up to a December 25th game versus the Lakers. This was the third December 25th matchup between the two franchises, and the first one won by Boston. That game was the highlight of the day, but it wasn't the only favorable result, with the Warriors and the Bucks both lost their games. On December 28th, exactly a month after the Celtics went into a high-stakes game against the Bulls, they faced another high-stakes game in which they faced the Pistons. The Pistons were on the road to tying a league record for the longest losing streak. They had just come off their 27 loss and needed one more to tie the record. With the Celtics being the best team in the league and the Pistons on the verge of being the worst team to ever exist, all eyes were on this game. The Pistons came out attacking and built a 21-point lead near the end of the second quarter. Unfortunately for them, this Celtics team is historically great and rallied back with a 19-5 run in the third quarter and a 10-0 run in the fourth quarter to take a lead of 6 with 2 minutes left in regulation. Then for the next minute, no one other than Jaden Ivey scored, who put up 6 straight to tie the game. Tatum made a layup with 8 seconds to go. Cade Cunningham missed the game-winning 3, and Bogdanovich tipped it in to tie it again. Overtime. Derek White scored 10 of the Celtics' 20 overtime points. Yes, we scored 20 in overtime, and we made it out alive somehow. Following the Pistons game was the second night of a back-to-back. Jaylen Brown, who missed the first night of the back-to-back, led the team to a victory over the Raptors. He dominated the first quarter with 15 points and finished the game with 31 points and an alley-oop assist to Luke Cornett for the clutch tie-breaking dunk. The Celtics ended the year with a win over San Antonio and with Joe Mazzulla winning Coach of the Month. The coach of the game on January 8th, however, was not Mazzulla. No, it was the refs. With 3 seconds left in a tied game, Brown gets fouled on a shot attempt and gets the call. The Pacers challenge the call, so the refs walk over to the monitor, watch Buddy Hield whack Jaylen Brown in the head, and overturn the call. Yes, they watched Hield hit Jaylen Brown's head from different angles at different speeds and decided it's not a foul. That has to be the worst call of the season. They reviewed an obvious foul and still overturned it, costing us the game. To further add insult to injury, they proceeded to call a defensive foul on Porzingis, a foul they could have easily ignored, and the Pacers won with free throws. If there's one thing the Celtics have learned from years of deep playoff runs and 7-game series, it's the importance of bouncing back after a tough loss. And that's exactly what they did the next game against the Western Conference best team. They followed up their toughest loss of the season with their best win of the season. After leading for the entire first half and trailing for most of the second half, the Celtics trailed by 9 with 4 minutes to go, but went on a 16-7 run to tie it, with Tatum scoring 8 of the 16 but missing the game-winning jump shot. Between JT and JV's lockdown defense and Tatum showing us why he is the MVP of the team, we won the game in overtime, and they improved to 18-0 at home for the first time in franchise history. Following the Timberwolves game was the second night of a back-to-back matchup with the Bucks, where we got blown out pretty early because of our terrible shooting. But who cares, we were too busy celebrating the win over the team who could actually give us problems in the playoffs. Almost a week later, Wembanyama and his team walked into TD Garden, where Luke Cornett showed he was the greatest 7-footer by winning the tip-off, and gave us a great post-game interview.
And it's weird because I feel like we could be like a rap crew, but kind of like, I don't know what that crew would be.
After winning 20 straight games at home, the streak was broken by a finals preview game against the Denver Nuggets. It was a good basketball game with both sides sharing the rock and throwing punches. Unfortunately, the Celtics could not score in the last 5 minutes, but it was a winnable game, especially if you face them in the finals. The highlight of the game was his Porzingis kiss on White's head. The Celtics played their rivalry week game on January 25th, where they dominated the Heat with balanced scoring across the board. Drew Holiday also recorded the fastest shot in a full moment. The Kings also beat the Warriors that same day for rivalry week, so it was a nice little playoffs revenge day. The Kings-Warriors game had a closer ending with Kuminga making a dunk to put the Warriors up and being answered with a Sabonis dunk. Harrison Barnes then blocked Kuminga, Kevin Huerter missed both free throws, and Steph Curry was stripped by De'Aaron Fox. The Kings were back on top. Just like in November when the Celtics followed up their first loss of the season with their first back-to-back loss, they followed up their first home loss to the Nuggets with a loss in the next home game against the Clippers. To start the month of February, we lost to the Lakers, who were without LeBron and Anthony Davis. Nonetheless, it was a fun game to watch with both teams going on runs, but the Celtics just never caught up to Austin Reeves and his team. The next game was one that TD Garden had been long awaiting, the return of Marcus Smart. He got a lot of cheers from the Garden, tribute video along with a standing ovation, and a couple more cheers.
Marcus Smart's gonna return. This crowd's gonna go crazy.
Other than that, it was an interesting game against an interesting team. Grizzlies had 13 players on an injury report that would only grow as the season progressed. Before the All-Star game, the Celtics played a game which was for me the best game of the season. A playoff-level competition game against a playoff rival. This game had everything with everyone getting involved. The Miami rookie Jaime Hartis was showing off. Porzingis was throwing down alley-oops. Hero was taking over. Drew was hitting back-to-back big threes. Bridget was hustling.
Pritchard got it off and puts it in.
Open was blocking.
Storms in and gets denied.
Tatum was assisting.
Tatum, great look.
Brown was getting clutch buckets.
Three is good.
Miami was hitting circuit shots.
Wow.
Left floor in grudges against Tatum.
Shot clock violation.
Fans were making noise.
It's good.
Players were getting injured.
He's probably playing more difficult defenses.
Oh,
no.
Both teams were getting chippy.
Robinson and Brown still getting into it. In the aftermath of this,
Costa was getting frustrated. Mazzulla called the clutch timeout.
Porzingis and Brown controls it. And now Boston will take a timeout.
And the best of all, Bam Adebayo was denied by Jason Tatum.
Adebayo gets denied by Tatum.
then just before the All-Star game, the Celtics defeated the Nets after having beaten them just the day before. This game wasn't that significant except the Celtics won by 50 points, and that's important because they already had a 50-plus point win and were en route to breaking a league record. This win was also Joe Mazzulla's 100th win, and Peyton Pritchard scored a game-high 28 points. The Celtics entered the All-Star weekend with a 43-12 record. For the first Celtics appearance, we had JB participating in the dunk contest. JB was getting called the worst dunk contest participant, but let me remind you guys of Jericho Sims. All of his dunks were enough reason to cancel the dunk contest forever. But this one dunk is the moment the dunk contest truly flatlined. This 6'9" center ran up to the rim, no 360, no windmill, no nothing, pulled himself up using the net, put one arm in the rim after pulling himself up, ripped a piece of paper off the net while hanging right next to it, struggled to open the piece of paper, and somehow messed that up as well, and then had the audacity to ask for 50 points. Luckily, Mac McClung was there to save the day and revive the dunk contest. But coming back to this year's dunk contest, Mac McClung ended up winning again. None of his dunks were as good as last year's finale, but the first one was close. Jaime Jaquez and Jacob Tobin also put on a good show. Shout out to Jaime Jaquez's hair. Bias aside, I agree with the people criticizing the judges for giving JB higher scores than he deserved, but I still think him and Mac were the correct finalists. I know the JB critics probably want me to talk about the dunk over Kyle Sinat, but honestly I have nothing to say about that, other than we got a great picture out of it. My second favorite JB photo with a celebrity behind the Kanye West one. Before we get to the All-Star game, let's talk about the rosters. Tatum was deservedly starting. Brown should have started over Dame time because the Bucks were one of the last teams who deserved two starters. Derek White was snubbed. There is no one who I would clearly replace with him, but he deserved the spot. Other than the Celtics, the East was pretty good, except they double snubbed Trae Young, who was the most suitable to start over Dame time, but didn't even get a spot on the reserves until Julius Randle was injured. On the other hand, the West had a lot of snubs. It was partly because the West has been so stacked this season, but there's two changes I would have made to the rosters. First change is controversial, but it's Booker out and Fox in. The second change is way less controversial, and it's Towns out, Sabonis in. Alperen, Şengün and Wemby were also snubbed, but Jokic, AD and Sabonis are just better. Finally, on to the All-Star game. The Eastern Conference easily took the win, as the Western Conference consisted of old heads who didn't want to try, and then Jokic and Luka, who couldn't match the pace of the All-Star game. Tyrese Haliburton got going early with a hot hand from the 3-point line, and JB also got going as soon as he entered the game. I feel like he was robbed by not winning the game MVP, but maybe that's just because Dame Time won MVP and Karl-Anthony Towns put up 50 points, and they were both players who I said were undeserving of their roster spots. On February 24th, the Celtics started their 8th consecutive games national TV schedule with a win over the Knicks, and can I just say how much I like Madison Square Garden with the dim lights. The next game we won against the Sixers. Joe Mazzulla called it the best win of the season, which makes sense considering they struggled from the 3-point line but dominated the rebounding battle 56-28 and managed to outscore the Sixers in the second half 64-48, including a 17-0 run in the fourth quarter. On March 1st, JT won his second player of the month for the month of February, then continued his dominance with a 32-point game that night against Dallas. This next game was everything us Celtics fans could have asked for after the 2022 finals loss. A finals loss is major, especially if your team doesn't make it back there for a long time. And it's almost impossible to fully get revenge for a finals loss, especially in just one game. But March 3rd, 2024, the Celtics played the Golden State Warriors, and let me just read the scores throughout that game. 5-0, 21-21, 44-22, 53-24, 62-28, 82-38, 99-48, 121-67, 140-88. It was pure domination, a bloodbath. So much so that I prefer this timeline to the one where we actually win the 2022 finals. And in case you're wondering, the Warriors had no injured star. Everyone on the Celtics was hitting 3-pointers. Jaylen Brown dominated the first quarter with 5 threes. The Celtics went on a 23-1 run. Steph went 0-9 from beyond the arc, and the Warriors shot a combined 7 of 41 on 3-point attempts. If you guys remember, the Celtics had won 2 games by 50 points. This was their third such win, and a league record for the first team in NBA history to win 3 games in a season by 50+ points. That wasn't the only record they broke, because they had a franchise record 44-point lead at the half. So to all the Warriors fans, shut up about the finals and stop living in the past, because Jason Tatum has just ended your dynasty. This was also the Celtics' 11th straight win, their longest winning streak of the season. The day after the Warriors blowout, Jaylen Brown won Player of the Week. Then the day after that, the Celtics blew a 20-point lead and an 11-game win streak in the fourth quarter to the Cavaliers, more specifically Dwayne Wade's successor, Dean Wade. Also, the Celtics just can't stop breaking records, as this was the first time in franchise history where they ended the last quarter with a 20-point lead and lost the game. Jason Kelce and his brother were sitting courtside, which was nice. The Celtics played the Nuggets next, and the highlight of the game was Derek White losing the ball, getting it back and lobbing it up to Jaylen Brown for a dunk over Jokic. The first quarter was a dogfight. The second quarter was a 1v5 with Jaylen putting up 15 points and 5 offensive rebounds. Jaylen Brown finished with 41 points and 14 rebounds, but also missed a career-high 7 free throws. Aaron Gordon made an insane putback dunk, which I bring up because there's only 3 people I love watching dunk in game more than Jaylen Brown, and they are Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant, and Aaron Gordon. I mean, just look at this poster on Landry Shamet.
Here comes Aaron Gordon the other way. Gordon! Oh my goodness!
Drew Holiday hit back-to-back threes to cut the lead to 2 the minute in regulation, but the Nuggets won the game. Unfortunately, the Celtics did go 0-2 in the season series against the Nuggets, but they made both games a dogfight. This was only the second back-to-back loss of the season. The Celtics got back in the win column with a win over the Suns. Kevin Durant put up 45 points, which gave the Celtics haters a reason to cope with the Celtics' success. Unfortunately for them, the Celtics still got the win. Then 5 days later, the Celtics beat the Suns for the second time in a week on national television, becoming the first team to clinch the playoffs and improving their home record to 30-3. In their next game, the Celtics almost broke another record. Sam Hauser started the game as a starter and on a heater, sinking 10 3-pointers off 13 attempts. With over a quarter left in the game, he was on pace to break Craig's record of 14 made threes in a game, but some irrelevant Wizards player injured Hauser and he had to leave the game in the third quarter. Derek White was the star of the next game, recording his first career triple-double with 22 points, 10 rebounds and 10 assists in a win over the Pistons. Derek White was rewarded for his performance with a Player of the Week recognition on March 25th. Unfortunately, the Celtics lost their 9-game win streak the same day with the worst loss of the season, or in Atlanta's case, the largest comeback in franchise history. The Hawks rallied from down 30 to beat the Celtics on a bold DeAndre Hunter 3-point attempt and hit. The Celtics could have still won it, but they wasted a lot of clock on a tip-in attempt that went in after 3 tries. We did get a nice highlight though with the Wizards stadium poster on multiple defenders. Luckily, it was all good because we had the chance to take revenge in the very next game. Well, that's what I said before the game, because we may or may not have lost that game as well, but at least it was only the third back-to-back loss of the season. The good part about this game is that we didn't blow a 30-point lead. In fact, it was the closest game of the season. Let's look at this game flow graph. 40 ties and 40 lead changes. It reminded me of the Hornets and the Heat games earlier in the season, just as exciting as those. It was a game fueled by offensive rebounds for the Hawks and fast break points for the Celtics. Unfortunately, the refs were bad. They missed a +1 for JB. They didn't call Bruno Fernando for throwing around punches, but called Derek White for simply resting his hand on DeJounte, and also gave the Hawks multiple seconds more to inbound the ball. On the other hand, our offense did again go stale at the end of regulation, with Jaylen Brown being the only one to hit shots, making a clutch mid-range in both regulation and overtime. DeJounte was the star for the Hawks, scoring a career-high 44 points on 44 shot attempts, the most against the Celtics since Kobe. The Celtics had an impossibly possible chance to win it at the buzzer in overtime on an inbound tip-in attempt with 0.1 seconds on the clock, but Derek White, who was inbounding the ball, was just too locked in and sunk the ball on the inbound attempt, with no other player getting a touch. If you've been watching this team, then at this point you know they had to follow up a tough loss with a candidate for the best win of the season. They completed this by playing amazing defense in a bounce-back win against the Pelicans, and when I say amazing defense, that's an understatement. Let me just read the notes I wrote down for this game. Great defense from the team, Jaylen Brown locking up Zion, insanely good defense in the third quarter, Jaylen Brown deserves all defense recognition, best defense all season. I don't think I need to elaborate. The Celtics ended March on a high note, with Joe Mazzulla winning his second Coach of the Month, along with Brad Stevens' other coaching mastermind, Ime Udoka, winning his first. 3 days into April, we got a battle of the future dynasties, a finals preview of the next decade. Unfortunately, SGA and J-Dub were injured. It wasn't a precise preview, but a fun game to watch nonetheless. The Celtics outscored the Thunder in the fourth quarter 42-17 to pull away and win by 35. With this game, the Celtics also secured the best record in the league and home court advantage for the entire playoffs. On the same day, the Bucks lost to the G League Grizzlies, a day after losing to the Corey Kispert-led Wizards. Thus, back-to-back losses to the Wizards and the Grizzlies, and they hadn't even secured a playoff spot. While we not only only had secured the best record in the entire league, but we were also miles ahead of the rest of the East and better than any of the stacked Western Conference teams. We then played last season's Western Conference breakthrough season team, the Kings. It was a slow start for both teams with a whole lot of turnovers and missed shots. And when I say slow, I mean almost at rest. No one could hit a shot on either team. Contested shots, jump shots, open shots, layups, floaters, wide open shots, every single shot was a miss. That ball did not want to go in the net. Just look at this layup, that could have easily been a +1, but the ball refused to go in. The scoreboard was upset, 3-3 at the 7:19 mark and 6-3 halfway through the first quarter. At one point, Porzingis led the Celtics scorers with 4 points, followed by Xavier Tillman with 3 points. The Celtics did eventually go on a big 24-7 run to end the first quarter, and the game picked up from there. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, and the Celtics had built a double-digit lead. So Mazzulla pulled out the starters with over half the quarter left to play, and the Kings went on a 21-1 run to take a lead of 1, with a De'Aaron Fox off the backboard contested 3. Then we got the greatest Celtics clutch time possession of the season. Look at this. No one forces a shot, no one plays hero ball, everyone keeps driving for an attempt. They lose the ball but swiftly get it back, and then Xavier Tillman hits the game winner. And believe me when I say that this might be my favorite Celtics regular season game winner of all time. And that's crazy considering how that game held no stakes for the Celtics. That game was a peak basketball watching experience, a no-stakes game that we dominated early, a much-needed win for the opponent who played their heart out, and a game we won in clutch time with a perfect clutch possession. What a game. Definitely a top 5 game of the season. The game winner was similar to Tatum's game winner over the Nets, with the coach refusing to call a timeout and letting them thug it out. Also, Xavier Tillman should take the game-winning shots in the playoffs over Jason Tatum. The Bucks also continued their losing streak by losing to the Raptors, which was their third loss in a row, all 3 to teams eliminated from the playoffs. To make matters worse, the Raptors hadn't won a game in over a month. They had lost 15 straight and then beat the Bucks. At this rate, Milwaukee might fall from second place into the play-in, like the Eagles' mid-season downfall, except the Bucks weren't dominating in the start like the Eagles. They just had the second seed because the East is a weak conference. That same day, we also had another important game between the Mavs and the Warriors, who were battling it out all game with an increased intensity in the fourth quarter. Kyrie was going off burying the Warriors, and PJ Washington covered the grave by hitting the game winner. The Mavs beat the Warriors without Luka, and one of the biggest reasons why was they had figured out how to lock up Curry. They did it a few days ago, and they did it again that day. For me, this was the best day of the NBA regular season. But the day only got better, as after the NBA games, we had one more basketball game. People were saying this year's women's March Madness tournament is better than the men's, and I didn't really agree, especially because of this moment.
For the drama of this tournament, unlike anything in sports, 1.2 seconds left. Texas A&M.
Here's Taylor, keep in mind. As he races to that corner.
Radford, the inbounder, looking, the bounce, Garcia.
But I started to see where these people were coming from after the UConn vs Iowa Final 4 game. And let me just show you the ending of that game. With 75 seconds on the game clock and down by 4, Paige Buckets misses the corner 3 but gets her own rebound. Iowa shuts down the baseline and forces the turnover. Then on the other end, Edwards gets her hand on the ball and sends it towards the backcourt. Kate Moore inside to save it but throws it to Nakamura, who sinks a 3 to cut the lead to 1. Caitlin Clark runs down the clock by 22 seconds only to pass it to her teammate who turns it over. Then we get a controversial whistle that might have ruined the entire game. UConn inbounds the ball with 10 seconds to win the game, and they're running around trying to get open when Edwards gets called for an offensive foul on screen. Then Iowa pretty much maintained possession until the last second, but Clark on the inbound bounces the ball off of Buckets to kill the last second along with UConn's chances of advancing. The offensive foul call was bad. Yes, people were even calling it the worst call ever, which I wanna agree with because trust me, I know about refs winning big games in clutch time. But after the NFL playoffs, my brain has classified reacting to bad calls as an act of self-harm. So in conclusion, April 5th, 2024 was the greatest day in basketball history. On February 9th, Porzingis won the last player of the week of the season, and the Celtics simultaneously became the first team in NBA history to have 4 different players win player of the week in a season. Also, the Celtics played a game on this day, but the games from this point on don't matter because we weren't trying anymore. And no, I'm not just saying that because we lost to the Bucks. And yes, I know the game against the Kings also didn't matter, but how could I not talk about an Xavier Tillman game winner? However, I do wish we had won that game against the Bucks because the Celtics became the first team to attempt 0 free throws in a game. game, and the game broke the record for the fewest free throws attempted by both teams combined, with a total of 2 free throws, and the shortest broadcast time of a game with a total time of 1 hour and 57 minutes. That's definitely the kind of basketball game you want to watch over again. I sometimes feel sorry for the Sixers fans who have to choose between watching Embiid shoot 50 free throws every game or losing the game. The day after that game, Jrue Holiday signed a 4-year extension, which is amazing. We've got most of our core locked on long-term contracts. The only problem is the number of 3-figure contracts just keep increasing, especially when Tatum signs the Supermax this summer. The problem then is Derek White, who we will have to figure out an extension for next season, but Brad Stevens said he's got it under control, and I believe him. The Celtics let all their starters rest for a game for the first time in their second last game, which they played against the Hornets. They did end up winning, which isn't surprising as the Hornets aren't exactly a difficult team to beat, but the bench did shock us by blowing them out for a 30-point win. I think this game just highlights how insanely smart Brad Stevens is. He got rid of multiple major bench pieces during the offseason to make cap space for all the starters, but then still managed to assemble one of the greater benches in the league. We had the bench lead us to a second consecutive win in the final game of the season, which was also Mike Gorman's farewell game as he is retiring. The highlight of the final game was the Peyton Pritchard lob for a sweep poster, and with his final win of the season, we finished with a league best record of 64-18 and a home record of 37-4. Let's look at the team's accomplishments, stats, and records broken. Starting with accomplishments, we only lost one season series, which was to the Nuggets. We won the conference by 14 points, which is the biggest gap between first and second seeds this millennia, possibly even ever. Our longest losing streak was 2 games. Our longest winning streak was 11 games. We had 17 30-point leads and only 16 10-point deficits. We had 19 20-point wins and only 1 20-point loss. We had 10 wire-to-wire wins and only 1 wire-to-wire loss. And we made 1,351 threes, which is the second most in NBA history. Looking at the stats next, as a team we were first in blocks per game and 3-pointers made, and second in points per game, rebounds per game, and 3-point percentage. We also had the second best defensive rating and the first best offensive rating, and our net rating was a place ahead of first. And looking at player stats, the big one we have to talk about is net rating. We dominated that list. At one point in early March, we held the top 6 spots, with 3 of our starters being up there. Finally, let's review the records broken. Starting with individual records, Porzingis had the highest scoring Celtics debut. JT became the youngest Celtics to reach 10,000 career points. Jrue Holiday set the record for the fastest reacting a full moment with a backcourt violation 4 seconds into the game. And Sam Hauser almost broke Clay's records of threes made in the game. Next, franchise records. The team made the most 3 points in franchise history and second most in league history. They had the best point differential in franchise history as well as the best point differential at home. They held the largest halftime lead of 44, and they were the first team to enter the fourth quarter with a 20-point lead and blow it. Finally, league records. They had the most points per possession in league history, the most 25-point, 30-point, and 50-point wins in league history, and their opponents shot the fewest free throws. They also became the first team with 4 players winning Player of the Week, the first team with 0 free throw attempts in a game, and they helped the Pistons tie the record for the longest losing streak. So to recap the season in one sentence, we came into the offseason with the Rockets having shown interest in Jaylen Brown, because they thought we wouldn't give him the Supermax, but Brad Stevens said watch this and got rid of almost the entire bench to clear cap space, and not only gave JB the Supermax but also brought on Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, and now we are the most dominant team in the league with a potential dynasty in the future. The Celtics G League affiliate, the main Celtics, also had themselves quite the season. They made it to the finals where they won Game 1, lost Game 2, and then unfortunately lost Game 3. OKC vs Maine in the G League finals was a preview of the Boston vs OKC Dynasty's finals we're about to see over the next decade. Before I end the video, after the season ended, Blake Griffin did announce his retirement. It's unfortunate that we were only 1 win away from getting him to his first finals and 1 series away from getting him his first ring, but we fell short in the end. However, I'd argue that since his last season was with us and he didn't announce his retirement before this season, he should get a ring if we win the finals this year, which we will. See you at the trophy presentation.